once again, the English didn't want us to have all this big silver money because us colonials, we might do something silly like have a revolution or something.
All right, everybody, what is going on? How's everybody doing today? I hope you're having a good one. Welcome to a new video. So today we are out of the house again. This is Fort Loudoun. It's real close to my house. So we figured we'd come and get out of the house and take a little walk through our history. Hey, let's go. Hey, I hope you like this. If you do, you know what to do, baby. Drop some thumbs, hit that like button. It would really help me out. And hey, come subscribe. Come join the Odie Nation. I'd love to have you guys. Peace out, baby. Yeah. As you can see, it does have a beautiful little picnic area overlooking the water. Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty day, guys. Out and about on the lake. So pretty. Good bit of people out there on the water. I don't blame them one bit. Alright, so we are, you know what time it is, out for our weekly stroll. Here we go. So beautiful. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day. There's a dude out there on the water right now, chilling in his boat, out there on the fishing. See if we can't get him. Check out this house over here. This thing is huge. See how the video picks it up. It may be. Oh, there it is. Them some big old houses over there, boy. A big cluster of them. Let's back this back up. Alright, let's keep on trucking around this little thing. I think it leads to a little boat dock over here, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, look at that.
It's a fish jumping.
Oh, so pretty.
The fishes are jumping.
The fishies are jumping. Oh yeah. Now we're talking.
Yes. Look at that. Baby.
Anyways, look at that. Ooh wee. Let's keep on trucking. Coda's like, don't mind me. And we'll slip down this little piece of, it cuts back onto this little, come here, Coda. This way. Let's, look, even more picnic benches with grills on the edge of the water. I mean, come on. That's a no-brainer. Look at that. Picnic table. Don't jump in yet. It's in the 60s, so I'm not ready to swim. But summer is around the corner. So pretty. Another one like snug in his corner. Let's keep on trucking. Yeah, a little cluster, a couple bends over here. A pretty little dock right there. Look at a whole group of little picnic tables over here. A whole bunch of them. And bathrooms. Cool. Hey, Coda.
Look at him.
Didn't you just have to pee and we made you piss in the woods? There's a bathroom. We didn't know. All right, let's keep on trucking. Look. All right.
No swimming or jumping.
Boo. No swimming.
Or jumping.
Yes, what I'm talking about. Good, nice little fishing dock here.
Whoa. I heard this thing's built good.
Oh yeah.
No boats.
And the other end. This is cool. But there's some fish on that log right now, boy. Man, it's so pretty. Alright everybody, this is the front entrance of Fort Loudoun. Historic Park in Fort Loudoun. Very beautiful place. Very historic. Back in the 1800s and stuff. Or 1700s, I'm sorry. 1756. But let's get going. Look at that view.
What's your favorite?
That's cool, guys. Awesome. Oh, look at that. That's what I'm talking about. What a beauty. Look at those beauties. That's cool. Big boy. Big boy. The Golden Cannon. Let's go this way. Oh, this is a little, some more older stuff. So pretty. It's like a museum in here. But this is Fort Loudoun back in the, 1700s. It's pretty cool. You get real close. It's got little people in there with wagons and stuff. Some horses over here. You got some cows back there. Look, you got a group of Indians. Or, nope, them are soldiers. Call them Indians. The Indians went in here. That's cool. There we go. Now the Cherokees came in. Looks like something I need. Cool. This is awesome. And guys, it is free to walk in here and look at all this. They do not take charges. Sure, they accept donations in their gift shop. Okay, check this out. Okay, so you got a lot of art in here. And they all probably tell stories. Pretty cool. So it looks like them preserving the site and checking out all the awesome reconstruction, the rebuilding. That's pretty cool. The French and Indian War. It's got forts all over.
Maybe that's mine, and maybe you didn't get one of yours.
Pretty cool. And then over here we got Fort Loudoun. And there's another good one of what Fort Loudoun might have looked like. That's pretty neat. Overlooking the water. So, ooh, there's another good one. Another good image. Pretty cool. This is so cool.
Well, she works at the Academy, and while she was there was a freak accident in her shoulder, something happened. She was on light duty for months. But she was able to go to this class. She's been going to
They come from France.
British money.
That's crazy. It's been like a year.
Yeah, she blew it out in September.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She blew it out and then.
That's some big axe. That'd be a big axe to climb.
Yeah.
We have our seasonal starting.
What's wrong with the Knights Templar?
Look at that. Old bullets.
And then
They had two surgeons.
The stadium boy is, I'm not sure what, I don't know if they know, it doesn't look like bigger than the general manager.
There's another good one.
Carpentry master.
you're close. Everybody.
Yeah.
9144.
Surgeons, right?
It's cool. Chicken bone hooks and stuff. And there's some old forks. Wow. Pretty cool. Alright, so let's check this little cubby out. Oh, nice. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Nice. Look at that. That is awesome. And here you got More spears and stuff. Some old grenades. That's awesome. Then over here you get some of the old muskets and stuff. Look how long that musket is. Oh. Another one. And you got a bunch of them rolling across here. Muskets. Yeah. An old hatchet. So there's some old swords and stuff down there. That's pretty neat. Pretty cool. Alright guys, so it is a short little walk down here to the fort. And they do all kinds of reenactments down here. I remember when I was in school, the school trips would bring us to these things, and they would have little fake wars, and they would shoot off cannons, and it was just awesome. And here I am years later, bringing my fam to some. But this is very pretty. If you've never been to one of these, I suggest you come. And as you can see, there's the fort. Fort closed. Okay, so that's open. But it is so pretty. Look at that. That's part of it right there. And you just keep going this way. You come into this fort. So pretty. This is awesome. Let's keep on trucking. Alright, let's get on around this corner. Again, we are at Fort Loudoun. Got water on both sides of this little fort. But yeah, here we go. Fort Loudoun. And around this little corner is the front of the fort. So cool. There's a little gateway in it. Let's keep going this way. Alright, hold on, let's look right here. What does that say? This is the Tellico Blockhouse. Cool. That's how it was set up. And the water, look at that over there. Man, it's so pretty. But that looks like more of some of the installation over there. Alright, let's walk up this. Yeah, look, they got little cannon holes all over the place. And that was a big old tree that fell. But look at that, here we go. That part of history right here, guys. Alright. Look at that. And this is the Sally Port. Let's go inside. Check this out. We are in the fort.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they're cooking. They're doing all kinds of stuff in here. This is pretty cool. Let's go to this first one. This is pretty cool. Look at that, guys. Right on the water. Look. Man, that's so beautiful.
I've got some that some of you may have heard of. This is Epicac. Anybody heard of Epicac?
Oh, yeah.
It's made to induce vomiting, make people throw up. We used to have some of this in the medicine cabinet when our kids were little. Just in case they got into the medicine, we need to get them to throw up.
Yes.
And the reason Epicac is one of the better ones to use is because it's sweet.
Oh.
So you can get the little kid to
The
swallow.
drink, yes.
And not knowing it's going to make them puke.
Yes.
Okay. This is oil of cloves.
Yes.
Cloves can be used for sore gum or sore tooth.
Yes.
This one over here is chamomile. You heard of chamomile tea?
Oh,
It
yeah.
helps soothe. This can be used like for migraine. This though is one of my favorites. I keep it up high so people can't reach it. However, this is the infirmary. You're welcome to come in. And it's in a special jar because this is mercury.
Oh.
They would have used mercury as a medicine back in the 18th century.
That's cool.
And it's actually a poison. They did not know that at that time.
Yes.
But they would use it, like I said, medicinally. And one of the ways they could use it is hold it in your mouth along with some oil, makes you salivate.
Oh.
And the reason they would have done that is in the 18th century, they believed in a humoral theory of medicine. That's where the term ill-humored or in a bad humor comes from. There were 4 humors: blood, sputum, black bile, and yellow bile. Sputum, phlegm, you might want to try and say if somebody had bronchitis, you could help mobilize that by holding some mercury in your mouth.
Oh.
At least that's what I've heard. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
We know now mercury is a poison. Mercury is also used in the felting process in making these hats. And the men that made these hats over the years became mercury poisoned. Now mercury is a neurotoxin. It causes you to basically go insane.
Oh.
And that's where the expression "mad as a hatter" comes from. So the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland
There we go.
was mercury poison.
That's crazy.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, this is another room.
Use your foot.
That's pretty cool. So they would, you know, this might be part of the hospital, or this is just part of the barracks where people slept. And, you know, these are bunk beds. It's pretty cool. Fireplace to keep warm. Pretty neat. Check this out, guys. This is pretty cool. This is awesome.
Yes.
Look at that. Imagine being here in the 1700s as a soldier.
Are you not coming in? Are you looking for ants?
Pretty cool, guys. Another little home. And they're smart. They got the fireplace going.
Yes.
But this is awesome. So it was all one room back then, huh?
Yeah. This is Captain Demaray's quarters, so he.
So this is the captain's quarters?
You know,
That's
it's a little
cool.
bit nicer than everybody else. The average soldier would have been 2 to 3 to each bunk.
And over here?
Yeah.
Which is what all them down that way was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
he would
cool.
have had a little bit nicer setup with some dishes because he was also the representative of the king to the Cherokee, and so.
Got his own little bathroom back there.
Oh, Daddy?
Oh, nope, that's stairs going up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a loft up here.
That's cool. Pretty cool. Another little bunkhouse. Pretty cool. There's the door.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going down this way. This is beautiful. Another little bunkhouse. Maybe like a lieutenant's quarters or something like that, you know? But then we come down this way, probably where like the town village, or, you know, congregations and stuff like that, or parties maybe. This is the bakery. And I think over there is the blacksmith, so let's go check them out. This is some more bunks. Pretty cool. Alright guys, so this is the bakery.
You know, I
So
can't.
ooh, and they got something good on.
What is that?
You said there's 2, and I almost think it, but then I.
I'm gonna tell you, it smells delicious.
Yeah, maybe it got pushed back.
That is cool.
Maybe I'm
There's the oven.
That's what?
Look at that.
That's tea, Odie, maybe. What is that? Is that?
That don't smell like tea.
Well, if you'll wait just a second, my wife's walking back. She's doing all the work. I'll let her explain and get her credit.
Credit where it's needed, huh?
There you go. She's doing the work for it, so I'll let her.
Yeah.
Can I record?
So,
Yeah.
so it's a Scotch egg, and don't ask me how. Lots of cultures have laid claim, but somehow they got stuck with the name Scotch egg. So you start with a soft-boiled egg.
Yeah.
You dust it with flour and then wrap it with sausage, and then you bread it.
Yeah, that sounds
So
amazing.
I have a little bit of egg wash still left over. I put my breadcrumbs away.
Oh.
And then I fry it. And the reason being, people say soft-boiled egg, and I says yes, because it's going to cook a little bit more. And if you start with a hard-boiled egg and you cook it even more, it's going to get green and brown, the yolk, and that's not appealing.
No.
So,
Thank you.
and I
They
don't
look
want
delicious,
it too
yeah.
high
Yeah.
because I want the sausage to cook thoroughly.
Well, they look delicious.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you know, it would be really hard, and then the men would break it into pieces and then put it, put it in the stew. You could dip it in your coffee or soak it in your coffee so it would soften up.
Oh, okay.
Or you could have to put it in your
Milk.
soup, and it turns it into a roux.
Oh,
And
That's
thickens
cool.
it up to more of a stew.
exactly.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
Big old oven. A little box oven right there.
Yes.
And it goes up. We go into this side over here.
He was down here the whole time. Will Carter brought it this morning and he's in.
Pretty cool. Oh, one of my favorite things. Look, guys, blacksmith, and he is out here pumping it. Look at that. That is awesome. What you got cooking, bud?
Well, right now I'm trying to make a brace that when we open the bellows, we can put it through it and hold them open.
Okay, okay.
That way the leather stays better.
Gotcha.
And we're rebuilding the bellows up here. They fell apart after 30 years.
And you're gonna do it all with that?
Well, with the bellows, that's more carpentry than anything else.
Oh, okay.
It's just a
big bag.
well, it's 2 bags.
2 bags.
You see how the bottom drops down, and then when I bring the bottom up, the top jumps up.
Yeah.
There's a valve between them.
That's cool. Get that fire roasting.
Which regiment were you in?
That's cool. Yeah, you use the fire to heat it up. Look at there, he just cut it in half, old school.
Yeah.
The leather gets creased in it and will eventually crack there. If you keep it open, it'll stay a lot more pliable.
Check out, here would be the well. That's pretty cool. And then you come over here.
You just really had an awful season hunting deer. If you had some trade silver, you could still come in here and do trade with me. Because I know what the weight of all my coinage is, you know, silver weight. I could use that knowledge to say, okay, this is how much money you have with my trade shop.
Is this the silver?
One of them. So the English didn't want us to have a lot of large silver coinage. So this is an English crown.
And then that piece you pick up, Barbara, that'd be a
A real
quarter.
one?
Those are reproductions. But once again, the English didn't want us to have all this big silver money because us Canadians, we might do something silly like have a revolution or something. So we didn't have a lot of that. But what we did have, Spanish reals. Once again, 1 for 1, they're the same thing, equal size, just like the French écu. Roughly what we would call a dollar coin today in size. We would get these, and that coin right here could buy you room and board at a tavern for about a week.
Wow.
So
Don't
we
give
don't
me
need a
ideas,
coin that
Barbara.
big. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it up into pieces. We're going to call it a piece of 8 because it gives you 8 of these little pizza slices.
That's cool.
So you'd have a jeweler cut those up. And have you ever heard the jingle, shave and a haircut, 2 bits? Well, folks, right there, that's 2 bits.
How about that?
So,
2 pieces of the pie.
Yep,
Isn't that neat?
little coin bag. Carry them like that. And I got a couple other coins in there right now. But you would use that for smaller purchases. But once again, that's still, even that 1 bit, that's still a lot of money. So we had some other money here, like copper pennies and half pennies. And then you'd have things like fatherlings, which is even smaller little coin. And then this one here, that's a 6 pence.
Okay.
This is what a soldier was paid a day. A day's wage for a soldier.
Sing us on a 6 pence, Barbara.
Mhm.
Pocket full of rye. Carter, this used to be a church. You know how I know? There's a holy place right there.
I got the holy place.
Okay.
Oh, this is too.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
sir.
enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. There's his jewelry.
Bye.
So different types of silver jewelry, and then I have one that, let's say you didn't have the money for it. That's actually a piece of tin you could have cut out of a tin pot, and we have a lot of records showing that they were using tin to make kind of fake jewelry,
Right.
even expedient arrowheads out of a tin.
That's cool. That's pretty neat.
But this
Can't forget the drinks now.
Believe it or not, if you look at that barrel real close, it says salt.
Oh,
This is
okay,
actually
so it's
the-
not alcohol.
Yeah,
It's
this
just
is the company
salt
store.
and minerals.
So we got salt beef, salt pork, barrels
Okay.
just for salt, so we can actually butcher live animals
Yeah.
and salt them on the spot.
The independent company of South Carolina, which is who we are, was a reassembled batch of units that had been disbanded, old units that had been involved in other conflicts. And when they needed a unit to come out to the middle of nowhere, which is 450 miles from Charleston, you might as well be in the dark side of the moon. When they're gonna send you out this far, they weren't sending their best troops. Garrison troops were the old guys, the very young, and they were the ones that were not going, when you got them to where they're not going anywhere else. So they came out here to build the fort, and as the fort was being completed, they were the ones that were putting on the drills and the constant rap of fire they're practicing with the artillery and they're practicing with their muskets. So that if you were a French spy and you've got a glass and you're on the top of a hill, what you see is a large fort with high walls, with gun ports all over it, and a gun sticking out of every port. You can't go up and measure the barrel and say, suckers are only 3-pounders. This is nothing. It was a ruse, but it was a very well played one. They bought most of the weapons that were out here at the time from salvage yards in Charleston, South Carolina. They had been either brought over on ships that were impounded, or even stuff that was brought over as ballast in the hulls of ships. 3-pounders are a common ship-size ordnance when you're talking about merchantmen, not combat ships. Upper deck weapons to fight off pirates and things like that. You're going to want a light weapon that can be served by only a few men. That's what we have all the way around the outside. But French spies looking in only see large amounts of cannons being shot very often and very well drilled gun crews. They were the ones that said you have to get out. And when Captain Desmarais said, I can't just get very good rapport and a very good friendship going with the locals.
All right, guys, can you imagine being a soldier on duty, marching up and down this fence row? This is pretty cool. Look at these boys. Look at that. Woo! Look at that. Ain't that just beautiful? Look at that. Ain't that just beautiful? That's awesome. And this battlement is even cooler. So cool. All right, let's walk around out there for a little bit. Go check out them other buildings over there. Let's go. That's like what all the barracks would be. Just lined all the way down, all the way up top was the hospital part, or the medic, whatever you want to call them. And it comes all the way down this way.
And about halfway through that, I'm feeling a little, I've seen things come, and I'm getting woozy. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm kind of glad I'm
So pretty.
This is nice.
Some more battlements. And let's go out the back gate, I guess you'd call it. Got your old... That's cool. Look how them are made. Look at that. That's cool. The defensive perimeters. to impede Indian attacks. Pretty cool. But here we turn around and you got your kind of your little soldier there in his outhouse guarding the post. You know what I'm saying? Can't let no engines through. All right, let's keep going this way. Look at that. Ain't that just awesome? We're just chilling. Oh, pretty cool. Look at that fort right there. Man, that is just an awesome view of this beautiful fort. Awesome. And you got kind of like this little outpost over here. So pretty though. Alright guys, so Tuskegee, it was the town of the Cherokee, but as you can see in this, it is now at the bottom of the lake, as they filled it in. So out there was the Cherokee city until they flooded it. And this maybe is what their homes might look like, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. That's pretty cool. Check it out. That's pretty cool.
I say it's probably true, but only the studies
Pretty neat.
that say that it's just
That's cool. Howdy.
seal.
There'll be a flogging demonstration after this as well, since we are short one tricorn hat line.
Oh, she got her hat.
Company. No. Company. Better open your files to the left. By the left. Face. One. One. That's right. Let's get 101. Tuberculosis 102. Ready, arrest your firelock. Belay that. You're right. Hey, arrest your firelock. One. Yep. Good. Order your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Round your arms. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Take up your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Rest your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Shoulder your arms. Nope. Belay that. Club it your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Rest your firelock. 1, 2. Shoulder your arms. 1, 2. Secure your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Shoulder your firelock. 1, 2. Poise your firelock. 1, 2. Rest upon your arms. 1, 2. Draw your bayonet. 1, 2. your bayonet. 1, 2. Poise your bayonet. 1, 2. Shoulder your arms. 1, 2. Present your bayonet. 1, 2, 3. Charge your bayonet. Rest high. 1. Huzzah! One more time for the king. Charge your bayonet. Rest high. 1. Huzzah! Poise your bayonet. Rest on your bayonet. 1, 2, 3. Unfix bayonet. 1, 2, 3. Return your bayonet. 1. Poise your firelock. 1, 2, 3. Shoulder your arm. 1. Prepare to close your file to the right by the right face. 1, 2, 1. Rear rank, close the wheeling distance. Company!
They come
Press
over
on the
here.
gate. To the right about. March. Later, you're going to see these long columns of men marching out onto a field opposing each other, and they're going to spread out, and there could be hundreds, could be thousands, especially on the big battlefields of Europe. You would see 10,000 men, spread out across the field. And the idea is to load and fire, march toward each other a little bit more, stop, load, fire, and continue that process until somebody gives up, quits the field. We're not out here to slaughter everybody. That would be nice, but that's not what we're here to do. What we're trying to do is trying to drive them off the field. It's still somewhat civilized. We're not trying to mow everybody down. We're just trying to get them to quit the field. And the object is to load and fire as quickly as possible. Now, the British Army was very, very good at this. A well-trained soldier, unlike the Garrison type soldiers that you see, but the real frontline regiments, they can load and fire 3 to 4 times a minute. So if you're talking 10,000 men firing 4 rounds downrange every minute, that's a lot of firepower on both sides. But that's the clue. So you see in these big battles, like the Battle of Quebec, Major General James Wolfe has his men load double shot and buck and ball. Buck and ball being a musket ball and some buckshot. So he's doubling the firepower, and they're still loading and firing that quickly, and he's driving the French right off the field. That battle doesn't last more than an hour, hour and a half before the French have had enough and quit the field. So that's the idea, that's the essence of 18th century warfare. Later on in the 19th century, in our own Civil War, you see those same tactics, but instead of the smoothbore muskets that we have, they're only accurate to maybe 75 to 100 yards if you're lucky. Now you're firing 400 yards accurately, and the casualties are just horrific because they haven't changed the tactics. So that's the type of warfare that you would have seen, particularly in our period. Company, next ready. 1, 2, 3. So a lot of things have to go right for these weapons to fire properly. If it was very damp today, or worse, if it was raining, it'd be very, very hard for us to get these muskets to fire. And that's because black powder is exposed a lot. You know, the pan is exposed where we're priming them, but also black powder itself is like a sponge when it comes to moisture. There could just be a lot of moisture in the air, a foggy day, and it'll just turn to mud. These muskets tomorrow morning, when it's a little bit damp in the morning, if you were to run a cloth down these that were fired today, all of that residue that's in there now is going to turn to just a muddy mess. That's why we have to keep them clean. But that's going to affect your rate of fire, your ability to fire. And you'll see in the one-on-one demonstration, we'll talk about the flints, the sharpened stones that create the sparks, and that whole mechanism and how we actually can fire these weapons properly. But a lot of things have to go right.
Company, next ready. One. Yep. Freeze it. Fire. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, what you were just shown was a small portion of what volley fire would look like. Normally you'd have at least a platoon, if not a company or even a whole battalion firing at once. So you're not looking at 6 weapons or 5 weapons or even 10. You're looking at as many, sometimes as 1,000 weapons being fired at once. But a company front, at least a platoon, and as much as the entire company of 100 would fire at once. Now, the way European warfare went was you weren't really trying to totally eliminate your enemy. The weapons were so inaccurate and the distances varied so much that usually was not the case. This weapon is good for about 100 yards of distance, but accuracy only out to about 50 yards. If you were to look at it in a modern firearm, this thing has basically the same characteristics in shooting in range as a 16-gauge shotgun with a slug in it. So if you've done any hunting or fired any types of shotguns, that's what normally you'd see as far as the expected range and availability of how the weapon works. Now, to get the most out of this weapon, they fired in small groups and everyone discharging at once. The reload capability, a good, well-trained mass of men, company or larger size, could probably get out 3 rounds in a minute. There have been on record that them being able to fire as many as 4. This is not a well-trained and well-drilled group of people. So we would probably get out 3 rounds in 5 minutes. But the bottom line on this is good explanation for the use of the weapon is that it is used to decimate the enemy by a wall of lead, and by repeatedly using that in congruence with a bayonet charge to push the enemy off the field. The actual purpose for the whole thing is to gain control of the ground, win the battle by winning the field. Here in the frontier, there was another type of charge that was used, which is called bucket ball, and they would put a reduced scale slug in as the main charge, which is a 75 caliber bore. We used 69 caliber shot. But a bucket ball charge, you might have 650 caliber slugs behind that 69. So when 100 men would fire, you'd have 600 to 700 rounds of ammunition going down range at one time. Somebody's going to catch a piece of something at that range at those distances. English Army doctrine was to let the enemy get as close as possible before you discharge your first volley. There have been after-action memoirs from different commanders where they bled the distance off as little as 30 yards before they fired their first engagement shots, which you're literally, some of you are 30 yards from me. So think about looking into the enemy's eyes and pulling the trigger. That's a bravery that not many people can say they have. Now, as far as how the weapon works, this now, if you look at it, is a 75 caliber flintlock musket.
Many people would call this a brown bess, but at the time that this fort was used, nobody knew that term. That would come actually in the War of 1812. This weapon was known as the King's Arm, short or long pattern, depending upon the length of the barrel, and Model 1 or Model 2, depending on when it was made. The older ones, a lot of them have a tamping rod that's made of wood rather than steel. Now, to load the weapon, one opens its cartridge box and handles a single cartridge. The cartridge contains the actual projectile and the measured amount of powder that it's supposed to fire. It's usually a little rich. In other words, they're going to add a little extra powder to the shot. Now, there's a reason for that, because part of this cartridge is going to be used as your primer. So I'm going to pour part of my charge in the under portion of the frizzen, where that spark's going to be made to actually ignite the powder in the inside of the weapon. So the hammer is going to strike the frizzen. The flint on the hammer is going to cause a spark. It's going to drop into the priming powder. The priming powder is going to ignite, go through a touch hole in the outside, much like the touch hole in a cannon, and ignite the main charge. If everything goes right, in a moment you're going to hear a kaboom. We're told to come to the ready, and when we come to the ready, we're going to remove any safety attachment we've got and come to full cock. When we're told to present, we're then going to aim at the enemy, firing musket, and he will tell us then when to give fire. Give fire.
That was loud. Okay, well,
Now, that's pretty impressive for one round. Now imagine 100 rounds, each with 6 projectiles in it. That entire end of the field would turn into a pincushion. You wouldn't have to fire but several volleys, maybe 3, 4, before one side is decimated so badly that they're willing to relinquish the field. The difference is, here in the wilderness, people don't fight in lines, and it's passé to group people up where you can shoot all at once. So that the actual tactics started to change because of the French and Indian War. Questions, comments, anything else you'd like to see?
Walk out of here, George, barefooted.
Ma'am.
Did they do where you have like one line that shot and then another line pops up behind and shot and you rotate out?
Early tactics really were to group up as much as you can. Now you can 3-tier this. We've done it several times. We have one group kneeling, one group standing, and one group going over the shoulders. You'll have 3 lines of infantry firing at once. If we had 12, 13 people here with muskets, you'd see us do certain things like that just so you could see it. But unless you had enough area to, how can I say this, to spread out and actually use the field to its best advantage, you might see 3 layers. If you've got a small area where you can only get 20, 30 people through that, like the entranceway of our sally port, you may do 3 lines of infantry so you could fire one and then have the second line fire while the first line is either backing up or moving forward to reload. And then the third line would fire while the second line is reloading, and it would cycle. So that you could keep laying down fire in a narrow, small area so that nobody could advance. So yes, you can see that in this type of warfare, but it's situational. And the best situation is to have enough room to maneuver, but not so much as artillery becomes a play against infantry. Well, one of the early battles of the war in 1755, the Battle of Monongahela, which is near where Pittsburgh is today, they had a long column. They had grenadiers, they had regulars, they had militia, they had all the firepower and cannon, all the firepower they need. But they were on a very narrow road, and they panicked, tried to form up in the lines that they would as if they were on some battlefield in Europe. And the French and Indians took the high ground on either side and just kept mowing them down till they exhausted every cartridge that they had, the British, and then just panicked and ran because they just couldn't. That tactic, they were firing cannon into trees, and it was just doing nothing to stop the enemy. And the French and Indians just kept reloading and just mowing them down. These lines of soldiers would just go down like corn. you know, and so those tactics they had to adjust, you know, from over the course of the war from 55 through 60, you know, and later they had to adjust to a more guerrilla style of warfare, the type of warfare we know today, where you actually hide behind a tree, where you cut these uniforms a little bit shorter so they don't catch on the brush, those types of things. They shortened the hats, they did all kinds of things to get into that type of warfare, not the European style. So a lot different. Company, second and third rank, make ready. Freeze, head. 1. That was better. Wheel to the left.
Oh, so pretty. And you know what time it is. Break time. But, yeah, this is just pretty. Alright guys, if you like history, you're going to love this. Fort Loudoun is so beautiful. I'm sitting on a bench with this as my view. Can't get no better than that. Think about, guys, is where you see all this beautiful water on this beautiful spot. Just know that hundreds of years ago, that valley was not filled with water. It was actually Indian villages all through there. And TVA decided to make some dams and flood it up. So now it's a big water lake, or big lake. But originally, there was villages and stuff like that. The Indian villages were down in these valleys where all this water now stands. Which is pretty crazy to think about. Alright everybody, so that was Fort Loudoun, the real Fort Loudoun. The original Fort Loudoun. But hey guys, I hope you like it. If you do, you know what to do, baby. Drop some thumbs, hit that like button. It would really help me out. And hey, come subscribe. Come join the Odie Nation. I'd love to have you guys. Peace out, baby. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.